That was easier, a lot easier. We actually, funny story, that was on our podcast and we had so many difficulties. We lost like half the podcast.
I know. That's such a bummer. That's all right.
And so I was like, well, we'll do this in the meantime before we redo our podcast episode. So that was kind of a bummer, but super glad we're here. And for anyone who on my side here, this is Katrina. She is badass. I don't even know how I like initially found you. I don't know if you remember. I don't remember, but something whenever I started getting into training, gun safety, and shooting, I just kind of stumbled upon your profile. I'm like, this girl is really cool. I need to talk
Thank
to
you.
her. And that's kind of how that started.
Yeah, because was it here or was it TikTok? I don't really
You know what? I
remember.
think it was
Okay.
TikTok. Yeah.
All
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So for you guys who don't know me, on Katrina's side, I'm Maddie. I'm a women's health and fitness coach. And I focus on helping women get stronger, but I've been really diving into this side with self-defense and safety. It's something I've always wanted to do. But I never pulled the trigger, for lack of better words. And finally, it was like, I'm getting into this. And it's funny because when we got our marriage license, we also got our concealed carry license.
right.
But it took me like another, I don't know how long, not a year, but a good amount of time to like dive into it. So I just started getting into it in January, and I've been talking with Katrina back and forth about like what stuff should I get, and she's been giving me awesome tips. And I wanted to talk to you today, talk about some stuff that we actually talked about in the podcast that got lost. But women and self-defense and ways that we can, for anyone who hasn't been paying attention to like world events, this was a couple weeks ago, but in New York City, there are women who were getting hit and targeted first for being on their phone and just, not paying attention to their surroundings, but then just women in general were getting hit in the head. And it was like all over TikTok. Like it was like one video after another. It was insane. And so I saw a lot of suggestions on what can women do, especially living in New York City. You're not able to carry there, what options they had. And I'm like, this would be great to talk to Katrina about what areas women are not, preparing themselves, and how can we prepare ourselves better just from a fitness standpoint. And like a small tangent, so sorry, I know I'm rambling, but when I was at my concealed carry class, we were practicing just like handling a gun and how to properly handle it. And there was a woman who was kneeling in the class, and because to make space for other people. And I remember it's like this is like cemented in my brain. She was kneeling, and it was her turn, and she could barely get off the ground. And I just like thought for a second, and I'm a coach, so I'm used to helping women get stronger in whatever capacity. But I was like, how, if someone came in her house and she was kneeling, there's no way she's gonna get herself to safety. And I was like, holy crap! Like it just kind of like put two and two together in my mind, and I just knew this is like something we need to talk about, our fitness levels and our ability to defend ourselves. So yeah, that was my ramble.
Yeah, no, it definitely goes hand in hand. And we see the kneeling thing in our classes all the time. So we do our basic movement and defensive tactics with our training. And one of them is taking a knee. And we give them the example. Someone might be breaking into your house and you're going to, duck down and get behind some kind of cover or concealment. Usually that means crouching or taking a knee. And yeah, it's unfortunate. It is amazing how many people honestly can't do that and then get back up off the ground from a kneeling position.
It's such a it's such like a common thing, right? Those are just like basic motor functions that we lose over time, because if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And people don't really think about that. I think
Mhm.
a lot of people, as you're aging, you just get used to, modifying things.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you don't think about that. And there's another woman that I follow. I'm blanking on her name. It might be like She Equips Her. I can't remember, but she's big in
Mhm.
defense. And she had a picture of her in the gym, and she had a pepper spray, a little one, in like her yoga pants on the side. And so I
Mhm.
was like, why would you need to bring that to the gym? And now I'm blanking on what she said exactly, but she said like safety is an illusion or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true, because even in a place where people are working on getting stronger, right? Safety really is an illusion. I think that kind of goes in hand in hand, like our ability to defend ourselves and be physically able to defend ourselves is also an illusion, because you just kind of get used to losing the ability to do things over time, and then that's like your new norm.
Mm-hmm. I think it's like everything. We kind of also too like live in our past life, like high
Mhm.
school, maybe when we were like former high school or collegiate athletes, and then like 20, 30 plus years later, people are like, I still got it, but you don't. You don't have it at all.
Do you see that a lot, like in your classes that you do?
hmm Yeah, we do. We see it a lot, whether it's that mentality that, oh, well, I used to do this back in the day, or
Mm.
I'd say it even with shooting skills, well, I grew up plinking cans and doing this and that, and then, they end up being like the most unsafe person on the range, and they usually have the worst target, unfortunately, you know.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Even whenever I have been to the range now a handful of times, like it's interesting to see the varying levels of just, form, right? We know how important form is in the gym. If you're doing a squat and your knees are caving in, like you're not going to get the most benefit, and you're also going to be, potentially damaging some other areas. And you can
hmm
just see looking down each saw, I'm like, oh wow, like some people have been here for how many years? Oh, I don't know. But the form is so different. Of course, you're going to get a different outcome
Yes.
when you're not using that correct form. But one of the first questions I wanted to ask you before I forget, but what do you think are like the weakest points for safety when it comes to women?
Distraction and our cell phones, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and not saying that you shouldn't have kids, but a lot of times kids become a distraction. There's a lot of moms that I follow who post little videos that are really just simple, but really good, and just kind of makes you think, like when you're out walking with your kids, rather than, being on your phone or trying to jumble groceries, not holding their hands. So they kind of do a what you shouldn't do and what you should do when it comes to walking with your
Uh-huh.
children, to just sure like you're being aware of what's going on, your head's constantly on a swivel, you've got your kids locked in, and I get it, it's parenting is tough. I don't have children of my own, so I can't speak on it too much as far as what it's like to try to wrestle toddlers around and be situationally aware of what's going on. I get it, but there are a lot of moms out there who put good tips out there to just what you can do and start raising your children in that kind of environment, to know like, hey, we're about to walk through a parking lot, like you need to hold my hand, and
Mm-hmm.
this is what we're going to do, and just kind of instill that in them. So that's one thing, but the phones are a distraction. We always give our students homework at the end of each class, to like, it's a learning opportunity, it's not really homework, but we tell them, the next time you go to, Walmart, grocery store, wherever, just sit in your car in the parking lot for 1 minute and watch everybody come in and out of the store, and watch how many people are on their phones or
Mm-hmm.
not paying attention or just walking in like a vulnerable, kind of position, like shoulders slouched and just not very confident. How many people would it be easy to, snatch their purse, kidnap, just assault, punch in the face, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, every single person that you're watching is completely oblivious to everything that's going on around them.
And I think back how many times, again, not again, but a person who also doesn't have kids, whenever I'm leaving a store or packing up my car, and I'm just kind of like in my own world, like on my, oh, I'm checking my phone, putting stuff away. And now I've become more like, I'm trying to become more aware and just be like, okay, I don't need to be checking my phone right now. Like I'm putting it away. I'm walking to my car. I've always, whenever I'm driving and I park, I'm always parking like where people are, where there is light. So I'm never really like out super late at night, but just making sure I'm super aware. And I can even think back to a networking event I went to a couple months ago, like kind of during winter-ish, and I was walking back to my car in like the not greatest area of Pittsburgh, and there was a lot of homeless people out, and I didn't carry at the time. I only had pepper spray, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to put my phone away. I'm walking in my car. One guy came up to me and asked me for some money. I'm like, sorry, I don't have any. He was thankfully super nice and just sat back to where he was, but it was scary. And I was like, okay, I can't walk down, and it was dark too. I can't walk down and like like you said, like when you see someone crouched down, I automatically think like defenseless. So walking up tall, like even I know that, and wasn't the best feeling walking through the dark around the homeless, but that was a situation you just kind of like think about those situations. I'm like, wow, there's probably a lot more people who are just really not aware at all and walking into that not prepared.
Another one I want to touch on too that we see a lot, and I even hear a lot, is the dependency on like your spouse,
Oh yeah.
or husband. Whether or not you want to carry a firearm, that's a whole nother conversation. But I've definitely heard women say like, oh well, I always feel safe when I'm with my husband, or I don't need to carry anything because I'm usually with my husband. Hey, there was a time my husband and I went to Winn-Dixie together. Now I
Mhm.
carry, he carries, obviously, but we had an incident. Like I had an uncomfortable incident. So he went to one side of the store to get something. I went to a different side of the store.
Mhm.
And when you're then like looking for whoever you're with, and like you're walking, you look down the aisle, look for them, you keep walking, and like you're trying to find them. So you just keep walking and
Yeah.
looking down every single aisle. Well, I was doing that, and I noticed I was making eye contact with this strange man every single time. I'm like, okay, he must be looking for somebody too, whatever. Just kind of brushed it off as nothing, but making that awkward eye contact as I'm walking from one end of the store to the other. So then my husband's over in the dairy section getting eggs. I went to the bakery to get bread and cookies. And within 30, 40 seconds of me looking at whatever food I was looking at, that guy actually, he walked up and he got very close to my personal space.
Oh.
And all he said was, hey, what's up? But he was like 6'4", like a big dude.
Mhm.
And he got very close just to be like, hey, what's up? And I
Yeah.
was like, hey, what's up? I grabbed my purse because that's where I keep my firearm. I was just like, hey. And I just immediately walked around and away from him. And I made a beeline to my husband because I was like, that was weird.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just a casual, like he was looking for food and just kind of passed me. Like, no, he made it a point to
Right.
come very close in my personal space, like too
Mhm.
close for comfort.
Mhm.
Hey, what's up? I don't know if he was flirting, gonna hit on me, be creepy. I don't know. But it was one of those, like, I was literally with my husband and we were separated
Yeah.
for just a couple of minutes. And if something was gonna happen, it could have happened in that moment.
Yeah. And I think back to like how, I mean, the odds
Elbow.
of no, women, how many women here everywhere are going to Target by themselves?
Oh.
The amount, all of them, right? I really don't go to Target that much. I just try not to because it's a wormhole. But the amount of recently too, there's a lot of like weird things happening at Target, at Walmart, or wherever where women are getting approached by men, by people speaking a different language. That's kind of been like the MO, and they're like on a phone and they're behind them. Like that stuff's happening. And, just because you're going to think, oh, I'm going to be with my husband. Like you said, you guys were in the same area, same place, but different parts. And I think I brought this up on the podcast, but the one of the main reasons I was like, I really want to get into self defense is that my husband like will roughhouse a lot, and he will grab, and like he's 6 foot tall or so it's not like he's like a huge person, but
Pretty tall.
he'll grab both of my wrists with one
Mm-hmm.
hand. And I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm done. That's the one thing that like always gives me goosebumps. I'm like, if someone were to grab both my wrists, like I'm done. So I know that was kind of like my kind of wake up call, is that like
Mm-hmm.
I need to be more prepared and look into other methods. If I didn't have a fire on me, how could I get out of a situation? But I think relying on your spouse, who's not always going to be there, or what if something happens to them, is the same thing I think that I preach with our health and fitness. Is the end of the day, all you have is your body.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to take care of, mentally, physically, every. I never want to be in a position where I am relying on someone for, whether it's as simple as my motivation, whether it's simple as cooking my meals, or whether it's as intense as my safety. That should be all, I think, on
Yep.
yourself, in my eyes.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when you're by yourself, you might be on your own. Like we see all these videos all over the internet. Rather than people going to help a situation, they just pull out their camera and start recording, or they just stand
Oh,
there.
yeah.
There's fight or flight, but I also like to include freeze. A lot
Mhm.
of people have the freeze,
I'm a
in
freeze.
any kind of
I'm
situation, whether they're the victim or even a bystander or a witness. It's like they see what's going on, but they just freeze up because they don't know what to do or how to help in that moment. So it's kind of one of those. it's like a 99% chance no one's coming to help you out, you know.
Yeah,
And
I had a good, and this was like an incident that happened with my dog, and another dog saw us in a house and came out of the house to attack us, and I froze completely. And when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, so that's my response. Good to know. Luckily, it was not just a dog fight because it got really rough, and had to take her to the hospital, all those things, but it kind of gave me an indicator of
yep.
like this could be something I could replicate in the future with much higher stakes, like my life
Yeah.
line. So I think that's something that not that everyone needs to go through a situation, but it's also good to know is like how you're going to respond, how you can, retrain your brain to respond in a manner that's more protective for
Oh,
yourself.
of course. Yeah. You think you know how you're going to react in a situation, and then you don't necessarily until that moment. So, but the more you can train or just, build your confidence, and that goes right into fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not able to go right into a self-defense class
Mm-hmm.
yet, I notice our students who go to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
take care of themselves, live an active lifestyle, their
Mm-hmm.
performance is so much better. It helps with their coordination, it helps with their agility.
Mm-hmm.
And in the situation that they might have to either use a firearm or, fight back in self defense, they're going to have that much more of an advantage. Or it might even be enough to deter a situation altogether. When you feel strong, when you feel good mentally, physically, emotionally, like it kind of radiates off you when you're walking around. And so a
Yeah.
criminal is going to see that, and that might be enough for them to be like, you know what? She looks like she might actually put up a struggle and a fight, and I don't want that. Like, I want easy,
Yeah, they're
you know?
looking for someone that's weak.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like they're not going to put up a fight and that will just kind of like go along with it. Like I always say I kind of have like RBF when I'm walking around grocery shopping and I'm like trying not to like look mean, but like I'm just super aware and when people are creepy, like I'm looking at you and I'm going the other way.
I get
I'd
that
rather,
too.
I'd rather get that than like, oh, she looks like a good victim and
Yeah.
I'm taking her.
I'd much rather have an uncomfortable situation knowing like it was because I made it with my face, than risk something happen. Because I get that too, the RBF or gosh, you look so unapproachable, or even, with our company, we have one of our other instructors, Janine, and she's just like way more bubbly and
Huh.
like way more approachable looking than me. And so I'm glad because then it makes it a little less intimidating. And I've had people tell me like, well, I want to take your class. You just look mean. I'm like, oh, great. Sorry, I can't help that that's just my face. But in other instances, it does help.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with that. Talking about just making ourselves look less like a target. We talked about not being on your phone, being more aware of your surroundings, standing up, kind of taking up more space. Are there other things we like missed on that?
um, so I like to also, yeah, not being on your phone, obviously situational awareness, um, watching people's like mannerisms and body language and behavior. And another thing we also teach in our classes is watching people's hands and feet. I try to stay away from people that usually have like their hands tucked in their pockets or something, just because I don't know what they're doing in their pockets. Who knows if they got a weapon? Because I feel like those videos that were coming out with the women being hit in New York, the few of them that had the security footage, I feel like one that was in the subway, I feel like he had his hands like in his pockets. And as soon as she walked by, he just came out of the pocket and swung and hit her in the face.
Mm,
Which isn't always the scenario, but it's like working in law enforcement. We don't like having people with their hands in their pockets because you don't
yeah.
know if they have some kind of a weapon or something. And then you don't know what they're doing because this is like an international symbol for I'm getting aggressive and I'm probably going to throw a punch. So if
Right.
you are watching someone's hands and feet, that's what's going to hit you. Either the hands are going to hit you or try to grab you, or the kick, they might try to leg sweep you. Because watching people's eyes in their face, and I get the whole, you know, make eye contact, be intimidating, let them know that you see them. Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, you're glancing and looking at their hands and feet. Are they concealing a weapon?
Mm-hmm.
Because you never know. Like if say this was a knife, I could have my hand down,
Yeah.
have both my hands, I'm just walking. There's a knife in this hand, but not in this hand. But you're not going to notice that
Mm-hmm.
by staring at their eyeballs. Their eyeballs aren't going to jump out and attack you. It's their hands. So if you
Mm-hmm.
start getting into the habit of watching people's hands, you might that might help you notice, oh, hey, they're balling up their fists, or they've got some kind of object in their hand that could be a weapon. You just don't know, and then you can maybe make a beeline in the opposite direction from that person.
I wanted to ask, you kind of touched on it already. When you're walking, let's say like down a road and it's just you and someone else, is eye contact always like that's super important to do?
I think so, because it makes that other person aware you see them. And I know, like, we live in a time where communication is like lacking. Like, people don't know how to communicate or like be social anymore because we're so deep into technology.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, making eye contact can make you uncomfortable or just be awkward, because sometimes it leads to like an awkward half smile or just like an awkward experience between you and a stranger. But like, so be it. Awkwardness, I'd rather take awkwardness and knowing what the person looks like that I'm passing, than looking at their hands and their feet, than just not looking at all. Because what if they do attack you, and then now the police are like, well, what did he look like? I don't know, I wasn't looking at their face.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, those are valid. I'm the type of person like just very like, oh, this the other. I know that's not good. And I'm definitely going to improve on that skill. Because I'm like, if I can avoid awkward confrontation, I will.
Yeah, and I
So,
totally get that, and that's how most of us are. We just don't want to go through it. It's weird, and I get it. I used to be the same way, and then I had a self-defense class in college, and the teacher had us line up in line with everybody in class. She said, okay, turn to the person to your right, shake hands, introduce yourself. Okay, cool. Turn to the person to your left, yada, yada. She's like, all right, now without looking at the person to your right, like, what was the color of their hair or what was their eye color? And like, majority of us couldn't do it because we were just, oh, hi, okay, how's it going? Cool.
uh-huh.
I'm Katrina, and then turn back around. So we weren't like looking with a purpose or paying attention with a purpose. We were just going through the motions. So she's like, okay, so what happens if you ever either witness a crime or someone's attacking you and you have to give a description? Were you looking at that person? Nope, not really, because I don't even know what their eye color was.
That is such a good point. And I think circling it back to the incidents in New York, I think there was a lot of girls that said I didn't see what he looked like. And that could have been because he came out of literally
Of course.
nowhere or but part of it was probably maybe they just weren't super super aware.
Mhm.
And Eris has been trying to become more aware. I feel like I notice like everything now. I'm like, "Oh wow, like I used to never notice that, person walking there or someone behind me, but now it's kind of like I'm just constantly I'm like,
Yeah.
is this helpful for my nervous system? Maybe not because of how like hyper vigilant I've become, but it is helpful for keeping me alive and avoiding potential conflicts or things like that.
hmm It's good though, because not only does it teach you to like notice other people, we also tell people, because sometimes you might be in a place where you can't carry certain
Mhm.
self-defense tools. So this is where you start looking for weapons of opportunity. So like when you go into any place, obviously try to point out your exits in case a major incident happens, active shooter, whatever, you know where to go. You go into a restaurant, okay, they're probably going to have an exit in the kitchen. Obviously, you just came in the front entrance. Are there any other exits or places you could go to in case something happens? Take a seat. Okay. If someone were to come in right now and try to attack me, what do I have nearby that's a weapon? Is there a chair? Is there a vase, maybe
Mhm.
a broom, a fire extinguisher, your utensils? Like, what could you grab in that moment if you had to 100% fight back because you had no other choice? So that's when you start going into places, and looking for what we call weapons of opportunity.
I didn't even think of that. I mean, maybe like if I wasn't in freeze, I could do something.
Yeah. Because
But
that's
that
kind of what they teach you, like in an active shooter. Either obviously you try to run, but if you are like locked into the room or the classroom or whatever, and you have to fight back, like you fight back 100% with whatever you can do. So it's kind of like the no shit moment, but you just go for it.
no, yeah, and that again, if you want to be able to do that, and if you had to run, like if I had to run right now as fast as I could, I would probably suffer a bit because I haven't done like intense cardio in a good amount of time. So this makes me like, okay, maybe I need to get back into a little bit of some like jogging and running. But if I know I had to, let's say, fight someone off like just with hand to hand,
Hmm.
I would have a better chance thinking back to when I was like 115 pounds.
Right.
Like 20 pounds on me, a lot of that being muscle, it's helping me in that position because I'm not. frail, at
Yeah.
100 pounds trying to, fight someone off.
I think of that girl, and I think we talked about her the last time we talked in Tampa, that she was assaulted
Yes.
in her apartment gym complex. But that's what worked to her advantage. She weight trains, however many days a week she does her, bikini and bodybuilding competitions. So she's strong. I'm not sure if she had any kind of self-defense like classes or background or anything like that, but obviously like she was able to fight the dude off, and I 100% believe it's because she takes care of her body, she weight trains, so she's physically strong, but that also helps with the strong mindset.
Oh yeah, I always think about it like, and this is something my co-host Allie makes fun of me. 'Cause I'm always like Joe Rogan, but
Yeah.
he has some really good things. He talks about like how, when you are putting yourself through tough things, like physical things, it just grows that mindset capacity to where when you go through tough things in life, it doesn't seem that
Mhm.
bad. Not saying it's not as bad. Going through a potential assault, it isn't as bad because you've lifted weights, but your mind has done and gotten through tough things physically,
Yeah.
so it's just a better chance I can do this again because I've gone through tough things
Mhm.
physically.
Well, I know you do the cold plunging. I have yet to do that
You
myself.
need
I know
to.
everyone speaks very highly of it.
Yeah.
No, I probably should be doing it. I
Mm-hmm.
hate cold water. I hate being cold more than anything.
Me
I'd rather be
too.
miserably hot and sweaty any day over being cold. But um, from what I hear, it helps with stressful situations. Like if you can handle the cold plunging and you go up to whatever point in your neck that like hits your, there's
Oh,
some science to it.
I didn't.
Maybe I'll figure it out.
Uh-huh.
But that's what triggers like you to learn how to calm yourself in a stressful situation. So there was a lady and she was talking about it for like first responders and like law enforcement especially.
Mhm.
Those who cold plunge are going to be more likely to be able to stay calm under a hectic and stressful situation.
I didn't know there was like a certain point to it, but even from my experience with cold plunging, I think I've done it 3 or 4 times now. And the first time I was looking at the video and like I could not regulate my
Yeah.
breath for the whole I was in. It was just like like it was like I felt like I was dying. And then this recent time I didn't record it, but I just timed it. By the count of 11, I had gotten my breath under control
Yeah.
and I lasted for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's just I could feel the difference like from the first time versus the last
Yeah.
time, and like it also, of course, it sucks. Like before I got in there, I was in my head, I'm like, don't be a little bitch, and just got in. I didn't know. I was like, I don't want to do this, and you put your foot in, and it's so cold, like pins and needles, but it really does help. Even from if you have trouble, this is random, but if you have trouble regulating temperature, like you hate the cold, even more point to start doing them because it'll help you regulate temperature better too. So
Yeah.
think back.
I know I just have to do it. I just have to just do
You
it.
know,
I just don't feel.
actually do a sauna into a cold plunge. So much easier because when you're dying at like 150 degrees, you really want to go in there.
Yeah. See, I grew up where it snows, and we used to be in the hot tub, and then we would go jump and do snow angels in the snow, and then jump
Um,
out of the hot tub. But that was, just being young and kind of stupid.
I would do
I don't
that now.
know. I live in Florida, so it's a little bit harder. But I think now when it's summertime, I think I might try the cold plunge thing when it's like 95 degrees outside.
Well, I definitely recommend it. Do you have any like final thoughts or things you want to add in before we head out?
Um, for all you ladies out there, I can't encourage enough, just take care of yourself. Start looking into some self defense options, whether it be training classes, women's classes, firearms classes, anything. We start incorporating a new class with our company called FAFO for the spoof on, yeah, fuck around and find out, but it's really for fists and firearms operations. Because now not only are we incorporating firearms, but we've started incorporating like pepper spray, and some other non-lethal tools, as well as self-defense training, and then with shooting. So go find something if you have it in your area. Start searching women's groups, because I know it's an intimidating thing, but if you can find like women's focus classes or women's groups, especially for firearms, I know there's a lot of chapters out there for like Armed Women of America, A Girl and a Gun, and all these now. It's like the Girl Scouts of like women who like to shoot guns.
Girl
So
Scout.
they're usually pretty inviting, but just start building up that confidence, start choosing to carry something with you at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do make that choice to carry something, have it readily accessible. Don't just go buy the pepper spray at Walmart in the camping section and then just like dump it in your tote bag. And you're like, cool, I feel so good because I have pepper spray. But then in that moment, you need it. It's floating at the bottom of your diaper bag or your tote bag or your gym bag or whatever, you know. So just baby steps. Not saying you have to like go full on, go get into the fighting ring and start fighting Muay Thai or something crazy. Just make a goal of something that's going to better yourself, whether it's getting in the gym, go take your first self-defense class, go take an MMA class. I don't do something, a shooting class, whatever it may be, and just start working on those baby steps to help just build your confidence and know that you're doing it for yourself. You're investing in your safety because you probably have children that need you to come home. Maybe you have a spouse that depends on you to come home. Like there's people who love you and depend on you. And if you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of them?
Yeah, perfectly said. And like I started, like you said, you don't have to go from 0 to 100. I carried pepper spray, still do, for I don't know how many years, 5, 10 years
Mm-hmm.
before I even thought, maybe a little bit less, thought about carrying a fire weapon. So it, a long time to get here. Just like you can start with your health in any capacity. Like I always say, like I'm not a Debbie Downer on people that are like, I want to do group fitness or I want to do Orange Theory, right? Those are things to get you in the door
Mm-hmm.
on your health, just like carrying something small like pepper spray can get you in the door to taking your safety just a little bit more serious, and you can grow and develop from there. And not that I'm like affiliated them with at all, but Range USA, they have a women's class the second Saturday. I don't know if it's like everyone, but the one in my area, that's where I went to, and I
Cool.
went by myself. It was scary, but I went. And
Yeah.
now doing it every month and shooting multiple times a month and just finding that community and other women who are also starting from
Yep.
ground zero.
Yep. Yep. Just taking that leap. But look how much better you're doing in just what, a couple of months now that you've been doing that. Like I've seen your progress in such a short amount of time from your
Oh,
consistency.
thanks. That's the goal, is just to and I'm not investing a ton of time every day. It's a little bit of time every week, and
Yeah.
it really adds
Do what
up.
you can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very
It all
cool.
adds up and it
Yeah.
helps.
Well, I'm really glad we got to talk, and hopefully we'll be able to redo our podcast and
I
not
know.
delete it. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm sure Katrina and I will do another one of these eventually.
Yeah, definitely. We'll
All
see.
right, I'll talk to you later.